companies made huge profits. But for the authorities in India, there was something even more attractive than the millions of pounds worth of empire made: the military advantages of the railway project. Trade followed the flag, and the flag was made of steel.
The railways in India were hugely important from the point of view of military, of moving our troops around the place. And also they were a symbol of power. That's very important. These were in a way built to impress people, to give the impression that there's a hugely powerful nation which has built these and which can therefore, in a sense, have a right almost to rule over India.
Today, the wheel of fortune has turned. Britain's technical advantage has long disappeared. It's now Indian workshops who provide the rolling stock for India's nationalised railway.
Why did the Indians put up with the British?
Many Indians formed a partnership with the British. There's one thing which is absolutely clear about the British Raj, that if there wasn't a partnership with Indians, the Raj could not have survived. And that is perhaps the key point about it.
This partnership offered many benefits, not least to the Indian aristocracy, the Maharaja princes. Their control over large parts of the country had always been acknowledged by the government in London. Making up to the Maharajas was long-established policy. The railways would have to go right across the princely states. A deal was vital. I'm heading 190 miles southeast of Delhi to what was once one of the most powerful princely states of the Raj, Gwalior. This is the remains of the branch line from the centre of Gwalior to the Maharaja's palace. This is that the track ends in a brick wall, but this would have been the railway line which would take the Maharaja in their magnificent coach right the way through to his palace. Like many of the princes, the 19th century Maharajas who ruled Gwalior state were true rail fanatics. In the years since, people have thrown up walls and ripped up the rails, but traces of the old tracks can still be found. Evidence of how the Maharajas were kept on side. But this is obviously where it comes through the wall, and then it sets off towards the palace. But where does it go? The railways quickly became the most obvious symbol of the British Raj. Just to hear the tooting sound of a train was a reminder of who was in charge. The network had been designed by the British in the interests of empire and was almost entirely run by the British. But the Iron Horse quickly became extremely popular with everyone, from Maharajas downwards. I've got to be careful of snakes, apparently. The place is riddled with snakes. I think this is it. You can see the gap here, and the train would just come piling through here, all with steam and all the smoke and the sparks and everything. What a way to enter a palace, right? Just right through, no messing around. By allowing the railways into their princely states, local leaders like the Maharaja of Gwalior had accepted the silver shilling. They'd signed up with the British. Hello. Well, thank you. Can you open the gate for me, all right? Thanks very much. Well, this is some palace, isn't it? Built in the 19th century. The seat of the Maharajas of Gwalior. Fantastic, isn't it? Now, we don't have the train, but we do have a picture of the train up against the walls of the palace. This accommodation with the occupying power was collusion, nationalists might say collaboration, on a grand scale. The British like to argue that the Maharajas were aristocrats, lords of the manor, just like those at home. As with all the most lasting political deals, it was based on mutual interest. The Maharajas got the latest technology, the British control of India.
It's as simple as that. Everything was done to make sure that the princes were kept on side, because it made it so much easier for the British then to rule the whole country if they didn't have to control in detail the princely states. The Maharajas were very susceptible to flattery. Anything to do with the royals or the military they liked. Look at this portrait. A red coat, of course, British officer, the Order of Merit. It's everything to say, we think you're as good as we are, and then for the Maharaja, I think I'm as good as them.
The palace stands testimony to the power of wealth and prestige. It also contains one of the best examples of a rich man's fancy.
Imagine that you're here for a grand dinner at the height of the Raj. Something special is about to happen. Yeah, it's a train. The Maharaja is not just interested in trains, he's obsessed by them. And you take a drink off, you have a drink, absolutely fine, and then when you've poured out your drink, you put it back. And it's only when you put it back that the train sets off again.
His showmanship appealed to the British, not least to the Prince of Wales, who stayed in this palace on his visit to India in 1905. On his accession to the throne, George V inherited the title Emperor of India. It was a position only made possible through the acquiescence of the Maharajas. And what could be a more symbolic display of political unity than a special steam train to bring the royal guests to the Maharaja's palace?
The Maharajas go back to the 18th century here, but this is the one who was really keen on railways. We go on further into the modern period, and this was a minister for railways, and his son is the present Maharaja, now a junior minister. And it's not surprising that the present Maharaja isn't very keen to go on about his family's close connections with the British. For a politician in India today, it's not very good politics to hark back to the Raj.
That's my great-great-grandfather.
To me, the Maharaja comes across less as His Royal Highness and more as the local MP.
What did the British give to your family, the Maharajas? What was the essence of that relationship from the British to your family?
Well, to be quite honest, there's not much the British gave us.
But didn't they give
The British took a lot from India, but I don't think they gave very much.
All right.
The one thing that they did give was to India, which I think is a testimony which stands today as well, is probably the railway system and the most extensive railway network in this country. It is the cheapest mode of transport today in the country.
Now, there are some people who would be highly critical of the role played by the Maharajas and the princely states, because they feel that the princes shouldn't have collaborated with the British.
Well, I have always have a habit, John, of looking forward and not looking back. India is...
Is that because you're embarrassed about the past?
No, I'm not. I'm not embarrassed about the past at all. I think India is a very robust democracy. We are a growing economy. And I'm a product of 21st century India.
But you're still proud to be a Maharaja. You're still
Well, I'm
proud
not. I'm Jyotiraditya Scindia.
But do you never talk about yourself as a Maharaja? Do you
No,
never?
I don't.
But people here treat you very much as the Maharaja.
That may be, but I don't. I never think about it.
The Maharajas may have had a passion for railways, but even princes weren't allowed to run the system. The British insisted that in India, trains were their business. Only when independence came were the locals put in charge. But in one surprising way, the British made a compromise. Close relations between the British occupiers and Indian women had produced offspring, Anglo-Indians. These half-castes, as they were called, weren't wholly accepted by either side. But thanks to the railways, they weren't left without salvation.